The world is full of narcissists. These people are everywhere. In your workplace, in your family, maybe even in your own home. They're masters of manipulation, and they prey on the weak-minded, the emotional, the reactive. But I'm gonna give you something today that will change everything. I'm gonna give you the exact sentence that will make any narcissist fear you forever. But first, understand this. This isn't about power over someone else. This is about power within yourself. Because true power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from controlling yourself. Most people think the way to deal with a narcissist is to fight fire with fire, to get angry, to shout, to confront them head on. That's exactly what they want. Your emotional reaction is what feeds them. It's what gives them power. When you react emotionally, you're telling them, you're inside my head. You're controlling how I feel. And that's exactly where they want to be. I've dealt with narcissists my entire life, in business, in relationships, everywhere. And I've learned that the most powerful response isn't anger. It's absolute clarity. It's seeing through their game. I mean, narcissists are not powerful because they're smart. They're powerful because they know exactly how to pull you out of your center. They know how to trigger you. They know how to make you doubt yourself. The moment you react with tears, with rage, with panic, with anything emotional, they've won. Because now you're playing their game by their rules, and you will never win their game. Because they've been playing it their entire lives. They know every move, they know every trick. They've practiced manipulation since they were children. So stop trying to beat them at their own game. The most powerful weapon against a narcissist isn't aggression, it's awareness. And that's something they cannot handle, because awareness doesn't react. Awareness doesn't get triggered, awareness simply sees. And being seen for what they truly are terrifies a narcissist. When you become truly aware, you step out of their game entirely. You're no longer caught in their narrative. You stop trying to fix them, to justify yourself, to explain, to defend. You see the pattern for what it is, and that is the first step toward breaking it. Awareness is realizing that not every comment needs a response. Not every accusation deserves your defense. Not every guilt trip requires an apology. You begin to understand that their behavior isn't personal. It's programmed. It's a system they run to maintain control. Most people trapped in relationships with narcissists spend years, sometimes decades, trying to be understood by someone who has absolutely no intention of understanding them. They bleed energy trying to explain themselves to someone who is deliberately misinterpreting everything they say. This is where your power lives, not in the storm of emotion, but in the calm of clarity. You may feel less dramatic, less forceful, even less visible when you don't engage in their chaos, but you're actually becoming stronger. You're shifting from being controlled to being conscious. I've seen people trapped in cycles of emotional abuse for years because they couldn't break the pattern. They kept reacting, they kept engaging, they kept hoping things would change. But nothing changes until you change your response. Regulated energy is your greatest defense. In the presence of a narcissist, your energy becomes the battlefield long before words are exchanged. Their strategy isn't always about what they say. It's about how they affect your nervous system. If they can dysregulate you, they can control you. If they can get your heart racing, your breath short, your thoughts spiraling, then you're no longer grounded. You're reacting, not responding. You're caught in their storm, and they know it. This is why emotional regulation isn't just self-care, it's a shield. A well-regulated nervous system is something a narcissist cannot penetrate. When your energy is regulated, you're in your body. You're not reliving childhood trauma or forecasting future danger. You're here. You're breathing deeply, your muscles are relaxed, and your perception is clear. This state is powerful because it's stable. And narcissists cannot manipulate stability. They manipulate chaos. They poke at open wounds and bait you into survival mode. They create emotional confusion because it disconnects you from your inner knowing. But when your nervous system is calm, you're no longer accessible to that confusion. You begin to feel what's true instead of questioning it. You sense what is off even when their words are smooth. You see the subtle energy behind the smile, the manipulation behind the compliment, the pressure behind the kindness. Energy speaks louder than words. When you walk into a room regulated, present, grounded, unattached, you don't need to say anything to shift the dynamic. Your very presence becomes a mirror. And mirrors are dangerous to those who are hiding. Narcissists can't stand the reflection of their own tactics when they're not working. They get agitated, disoriented, and confused when you don't respond the way they expect. When you're calm in the face of their chaos, it reveals the dysfunction in their behavior without you having to point it out. I've watched narcissists completely fall apart when they couldn't get a reaction from someone. They'll try everything. They'll insult you, they'll threaten you, they'll love bomb you, they'll pretend to be victims, they'll cry, they'll rage, all because they need your emotional energy. They feed on it. And when you don't give it to them, they starve. Regulated energy also means you respond from choice, not from conditioning. You're no longer saying yes when you mean no, or staying silent to avoid conflict. You're not triggered into proving, fixing, or defending. You're connected to your own internal cues. That is what true regulation looks like. It's not about being emotionally flat. It's about being emotionally sovereign. You get to decide what enters your field and what doesn't. You're no longer on edge, scanning for their next move. You're centered. You're not fighting to be seen. You're already witnessing yourself. And in that witnessing, you dismantle the very mechanism they rely on, because control can only exist where there is fear, and fear cannot survive in a regulated body. When you are grounded in your own energy, you become the calm in the storm rather than the one consumed by it. Your stillness becomes louder than their chaos. In the world of narcissistic dynamics, chaos is currency. Confusion is a weapon. The more disoriented you become, the easier it is for them to plant doubt, spin narratives, and rewrite reality in their favor. But truth, especially when delivered without emotional charge, is something they cannot counter. It cuts through the noise, it shatters the performance, it dismantles the story they've carefully constructed, because it doesn't argue, it doesn't plead, and it doesn't entertain the falsehood. It simply reveals. And narcissists fear that revelation more than anything. Most people believe that power lies in volume or aggression, that to be heard, you must be forceful. That's what the Matrix wants you to believe. That's what weak men believe. But when dealing with a narcissist, loudness only fuels the game. They want you off balance. They want you defensive, reactive, emotional. That's where they can twist your words, flip the script, and frame you as the unstable one. But when you speak from calm clarity, you shift the frequency of the interaction. You're not trying to win. You're not seeking validation. You're speaking truth because it is truth. And that alone is enough. It holds its own power, even when it's spoken softly. Calm truth-telling also removes their leverage. They rely on your emotional intensity to distract, derail, or redirect. If you come at them with fire, they'll mirror it back and accuse you of being the problem. If you cry, they'll position themselves as the victim. But when you're calm, they have nothing to grip onto. There's no drama to manipulate, no reaction to distort. Your calmness neutralizes the dynamic. It reveals who's truly unstable in the room. It forces the spotlight away from the story and onto the structure, the toxic framework they've been hiding behind. This kind of truth requires inner work. It requires that you've moved through the phase of needing to be believed. You no longer need them to admit what they did or to take accountability. You're not waiting for closure or confession. You've detached from their need to agree with your reality because you've anchored yourself in it. That is the space from which calm truth emerges, not from the desire to convince, but from the knowing that your experience is valid even if they deny it. And truth is spoken from that place. It's not just words, it's energy. It resonates in the body. It awakens your own system. You feel stronger, clearer, and more rooted. And at the same time, the narcissist feels exposed. Not because you're attacking, but because you're reflecting. You've become a mirror they can't escape. And in that reflection, they're forced to confront the one thing they fear the most, that their illusion no longer works on you. You've seen through the game. You've reclaimed your voice, not as a weapon, but as a tuning fork for reality. And once truth has been spoken in that way, even quietly, it echoes in the space between you. It lingers in the air. It can't be unsaid or undone. So what's the sentence? What are the exact words that will make a narcissist fear you forever? I see what you're doing and it won't work anymore. This sentence doesn't need to be shouted. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It lands like a quiet thunderclap because it signals something terrifying to a narcissist. Awareness plus boundary. It's not just that you recognize the manipulation, it's that you're no longer available for it. In one sentence, you're communicating that the game has been exposed and you're stepping off the board. No more chasing, no more explaining, no more hoping they'll change. There's only clarity. And clarity is lethal to illusion. To say, I see what you're doing, is to name the pattern without needing their agreement. You're no longer gaslighting yourself. You're no longer asking, am I overreacting? Is it just me? You're not caught in the spiral of second guessing. You're not looking for proof. You've seen it enough times. The same script, the same tactics, love bombing, guilt tripping, silent treatments, blame shifts. It's no longer mysterious. It's predictable And once a behavior becomes predictable, it loses its power to confuse. But it's the second part of the sentence that really stings them. And it won't work anymore. That's where the door closes. That's where the energetic contract is broken. Narcissists depend on you staying in the loop. They expect you to always return, always doubt yourself, always leave the door cracked, just enough for them to slip back in. But this sentence declares the end of that cycle. You're not trying to fix them. You're not asking for change. You're just not playing anymore. And that's what destabilizes them. Not your anger, but your absence. This kind of boundary isn't about punishing them. It's about protecting your peace. It's about saying, you can do what you want, but not here, not with me. That's a shift from needing to control the narcissist to fully owning your own space. And that ownership changes everything. It realigns your nervous system from defense to discernment. You're no longer in survival mode, trying to navigate their moods or decode their behavior. You're simply watching, noticing, and choosing what you'll allow into your energy. They may escalate. They may lash out or attempt to pull you back in. They may act confused, betrayed, or wounded. But underneath that reaction is fear, because you've stepped out of the trance. You've stopped feeding the loop. And once you've seen the mechanism clearly, it becomes impossible to unsee it. The spell is broken. The power they had was never real. It was borrowed from your lack of clarity, your need for approval, your unhealed wounds. But now this sentence is proof that something has shifted inside you. You're no longer hypnotized by the performance. You're watching it like an old film you've seen too many times, and now you know exactly how it ends. That quiet certainty is more disruptive than any confrontation because it tells the narcissist they've lost their grip without you having to raise your voice or lift a finger. When you reclaim your awareness, regulate your energy, and speak truth without emotional entanglement, you become immune to manipulation. Narcissists don't fear confrontation. They fear exposure. They fear the version of you that no longer needs their validation, that no longer reacts, that simply sees. One sentence, I see what you're doing and it won't work anymore. It's not just a boundary, it's a declaration of self-sovereignty. It signals that their game is over. Not because you fought harder, but because you woke up. And once you've awakened, there is no going back. A lot of people never escape narcissistic abuse because they keep playing by the narcissist's rules. They keep trying to negotiate with someone who has no intention of being fair. They keep trying to be understood by someone who deliberately misunderstands them. They keep trying to get closure from someone who thrives on keeping wounds open. But you're not most people. You're not going to waste your energy trying to make a narcissist see the truth. You're going to use that energy to create a life so powerful, so focused, so full of purpose that their attempts to derail you become irrelevant. Remember this, a narcissist's greatest fear isn't your anger, it's your indifference. It's your ability to walk away emotionally, even if you still have to interact with them physically. It's your capacity to see through their tactics without getting triggered by them. So practice regulating your nervous system. Practice witnessing without reacting. Practice speaking truth calmly and clearly. And when the time comes, when you're faced with manipulation, gaslighting, emotional blackmail, simply state the truth. I see what you're doing, and it won't work anymore. Then watch as their power dissolves, not with a bang, but with the quiet certainty that comes from finally seeing reality clearly. That's how you make a narcissist fear you forever, not through intimidation, but through illumination. Not by becoming like them, but by becoming so anchored in your truth that their lies have no place to land. Take this wisdom and use it. Your freedom depends on it.